The bilingual brain. Should parents raise kids in two languages? For decades, parents were told that raising a child bilingual would confuse them, delay their speech, and make it harder to succeed in school. Teachers, doctors, even well-meaning relatives warned against it. But today, research says the opposite. Bilingualism might be one of the most powerful ways to shape a child's brain for the better. Here's what that looks like. Imagine your toddler points to the family dog and says, "Dog-perro." At first, it might sound like they're mixing things up, like they can't tell one language from the other. But to neuroscientists, that single sentence is gold. It shows the brain is running two systems at once, flipping between them with precision. That's not a mistake. It's brain training in real time. And here's where parents lean in. The very thing people used to see as a weakness turns out to be the exact workout that makes bilingual kids stronger in focus, problem solving, and even social skills. Which raises the real question every parent has to face. Will teaching your child two languages slow them down, or give them a lifelong advantage? That's what we're about to uncover. Here's what researchers have discovered. A bilingual brain doesn't just file away two languages like apps on a phone. It actually functions differently. Think about those tricky optical illusions, like the image that's both a duck and a rabbit. Most of us can only see one at a time, switching back and forth. Monolingual kids can do it, but bilingual kids often flip faster. Why? Because every day they're practicing that same mental gear shift, turning one language on while turning the other off. It's constant exercise in focus and control. And this workout leaves a mark. Brain scans show that bilingual children often develop more gray matter, the wiring that connects neurons and allows information to flow. More connections mean faster, stronger thinking. In fact, one study found that bilingual adults delay the symptoms of dementia and Alzheimer's by 4 to 5 years compared to monolinguals. That's not a small boost. That's years of healthy brain function gained. Here's a pattern you might not expect. Babies are born with what scientists call universal hearing. For the first 6 months of life, they can distinguish all 800 phonemes, the building blocks of every spoken language. English only uses about 44, Spanish about 24, but your baby at birth can hear them all. Unless they're exposed to multiple languages, that ability narrows, what researchers call perceptual narrowing. Bilingual babies, they hold on to more of those sounds. It's like keeping extra musical notes in their toolbox. Imagine your child being able to hear tones and patterns most people lose before their first birthday. That's not just learning words, it's keeping access to an entire world of sound. Now, let's clear up some of the biggest fears parents still carry about bilingual kids. These aren't just old wives' tales. Some of them were printed in parenting books and even echoed by doctors just a few decades ago. Myth number 1, bilingual kids get confused. If you've ever heard your child say something like, "Quiero more juice," you might worry they're mixing things up. But this isn't confusion. It's called code switching. Research shows bilingual children as young as 2 already know the difference between their languages. They just choose whichever word comes to mind first. In fact, they even adjust who they code switch with. They'll mix with grandma who understands both languages, but stick to English with the teacher who doesn't. That's not a mistake. It's advanced social awareness. Myth number 2, bilingual kids have speech delays. Yes, some children take a little longer to hit early milestones. Studies suggest bilingual toddlers may know fewer words in each language separately than their monolingual peers. But here's the catch. When you combine both languages, their vocabulary is often just as large, if not larger. And the payoff comes later. Research published in Child Development found that bilingual children outperform monolinguals in tasks that require switching attention or ignoring distractions. So what looks like a delay at age 2 can turn into an advantage by age 7. Myth number 3, parents have to be fluent to raise a bilingual child. This one stops so many families from even trying. But here's the truth. Exposure matters more than perfection. Reading books in Spanish, even if your accent isn't perfect, playing music in French, or letting your child watch a cartoon in Mandarin, all of it builds connections. Think of it like food. Your child doesn't need a gourmet meal every night, they just need consistent nutrition. Language works the same way. Steady exposure feeds growth. Here's the part most parents never hear about. The benefits of bilingualism go far beyond brain scans and test scores. Bilingual children often show greater empathy. A 2015 study from the University of Chicago found that bilingual kids were better at taking another person's perspective during social experiments. Why? Because every time they switch languages, they're practicing how to see the world through a different lens. They learn early that the same idea can be expressed in more than one way, and that people think differently depending on the words they use. There's also the gift of belonging. Picture a child who can sit with their grandmother and hear family stories in the original language without needing a translator. That connection is priceless. Parents who don't pass on their heritage language often say later that their child missed out, not just on words, but on traditions, humor, humor, even a sense of identity. Language isn't just vocabulary, it's culture carried in sound. And let's not forget the practical edge. Research consistently shows bilinguals outperform monolinguals in tasks requiring focus and multitasking. Over a lifetime, that translates into an edge in school and even in the workplace. In fact, the U.S. Census Bureau reports that bilingual employees can earn between 5–20% more than monolingual peers in certain industries. So while science highlights gray matter and neural pathways, parents should remember this. Raising a bilingual child doesn't just change their brain. It changes their opportunities, their connections, and their sense of who they are in the world. By now, you might be thinking, this sounds incredible, but how do I actually raise a bilingual child if I'm not fluent, or if our home isn't fully bilingual? The good news is, you don't need to do everything perfectly. You just need consistency and exposure. Here are some strategies that work in real families. Start small with stories and songs. Reading a 5-minute bedtime story in Spanish or singing along to French nursery rhymes might not feel like much, but language is built in moments, not marathons. A 2020 study in Frontiers in Psychology found that toddlers exposed to daily story time in a second language showed measurable vocabulary growth in just a few months. And use family and community. Grandparents, neighbors, or family friends who speak another language are living resources. Encourage them to use it with your child. Even simple things like greetings, cooking together, or saying prayers in another language keep it alive. Let screens work for you. Instead of banning screen time, make it intentional. A cartoon in Mandarin or a YouTube sing-along in Hindi can be surprisingly powerful. Kids don't treat it as schoolwork. They just enjoy the rhythm and sound. Don't stress about mixing. If your child says, "Quiero more juice," that's not failure, it's progress. It shows they're pulling from both toolboxes as they figure out which fits best. Over time, their ability to separate the two grows stronger. And here's the kicker. It's never too late. Yes, younger children pick up sounds faster, but even teens and adults gain focus, flexibility, and memory benefits from learning a new language. Every bit of exposure is like adding another layer of wiring in the brain. The point isn't to raise a perfect speaker, it's to give your child access to more ways of thinking. So what used to be seen as confusion is actually strength. What looked like a delay is really growth. And what seemed like a challenge could end up being one of the greatest gifts you give your child. Raising a bilingual child isn't just about speaking 2 languages. It's about shaping a brain that's more flexible, a mind that can adapt, and a heart that understands people in a deeper way. Studies even show that bilingualism doesn't just boost cognitive control. It helps kids regulate their emotions, ignore distractions, and adapt to new environments faster. In a world that's constantly changing, those skills matter as much as grades or test scores. But beyond the research, think about the memories. Imagine your child laughing at a joke in Spanish that doesn't translate into English, or one day traveling abroad and feeling at home in a place that would feel foreign to most. That's not just knowledge, it's connection. Parent Squad wants to hear from you. Are you raising your child bilingual or thinking about it? What's been your biggest win or your hardest struggle? Is there a question we haven't quite answered for you? Share it in the comments because your story might be the one that gives another parent the courage to try.